we have two amazing guests today who I'm going to invite to come up now so that we can talk about this in more detail. Thank you. Great, thank you. And we kind of do a little fireside chat, and we do welcome input from you guys. So if you have any burning questions, please do feel free to interrupt. But I'm going to introduce you now to Cassandra Lord, who is Director of Communications for Adevinta. And if you don't know, that is the largest international group of online classified marketplaces in the world. Wow, and she's here in Spain, hurrah! So think Fotocasa, InfoJobs, Coches.net, we all know these sites, right? And Adevinta's in 15 countries with employees from 95 different nationalities. So I think that gives us a great idea. I didn't even know there were 95 different nationalities, that's amazing. So Cassandra has worked in comms for 15 years plus, including stints at Diageo and Google, and has worked in a number of different countries, so she has first-hand experience of what we're talking about.
I do indeed.
Gizem Baikal is Senior Manager at Page Personnel Shared Services Centre with 10 years recruitment experience, so very experienced in this field, and manages an international team that is recruiting international talent for Page, her own organisation, as well as advising clients across different sectors, so finance, marketing, HR, sales, customer service and IT areas. So welcome to you both, and the first question for you both is, where are you from and what are you doing in Barcelona? What brought you to Barcelona?
Okay, so my name is Gizem, as you introduced. I'm Turkish. And I was first in the Istanbul office of Page Personnel, Michael Page back there. It's we don't have that brand. And I was working there for 5 years, and I decided to have an international. I mean, I lived in Los Angeles in the past. I had some international experiences, but I wanted to have, a work experience abroad, and they hired me to Barcelona office actually to build up the international team. For the last 5 years, I've been here recruiting for international talents with all fields. It's like in our company we have specialized teams. My team is specialized in international recruitment. So, and then I came to Barcelona. Initially it was 2 years, then the project was successful. As you know, Barcelona is quite internationally diverse, so it worked well, and then I'm still here. So that's how I...
And Cassandra?
So I'm originally from the US, and as you said, I spent a long time working at Google. So I started there in California at the headquarters, and I had the opportunity to relocate to Tokyo, which was incredible and the hardest thing I've ever done and the funnest thing I've ever done. And that kind of launched my international career and my realization that I had moved too far away from the US on many of these cultural dimensions to be able to go back and live there happily. So I've never been back. I moved to Ireland for a couple of years after Japan, and then the UK where I started my family. And then after a few years, I was working for Adevinta, and we were setting up our corporate headquarters in Barcelona. So I kind of made the case to my boss that I would be much more effective and useful to the company if I was where the action was happening in Barcelona. So I relocated here with my family about 2.5 years ago. And a big part of that, I will add, was my desire for my daughter to grow up multicultural and having more than one language. It's been a great experience.
Perfect. So to both of you, I mean, here we are. How do you, in your companies, attract international talent across cultures? So the first part of the recruitment process is actually attracting the candidates in the first place. Perhaps I can ask you, Gizem.
Sure. I mean, in recruiting international is actually, I mean, it can get quite complicated because when you do the first recruitment, it's the first touch with the candidate. I mean, for example, the advertisements that you are publishing, it's if you want to attract intercultural talents, that the first impression is the most important, as you know. And as much as we are recruiting people and we are trying to find the right person for our organization, they are also trying to find the right company for themselves. So in that sense, what we do is that we value a lot the advertisements, the first impression. We have the opportunity to publish the advertisement in different countries. So that's kind of an important topic for us, that we not only look for talent in Spain, but also I mean all around the world. I mean globally, because you never know where you find the talent. In some positions that we lack the talent, like in more technical roles, etc. You actually go a bit beyond and then find people from wherever. I mean, with the requirements they're looking for, and also with the cultural fit, which is something as soft skills. So you need variety, you need volume of candidates, which is really difficult to find these days, especially for the last 2 years. I don't know if you also experienced that. It has been quite lacking the talent. And then, of course, what we do is that we try to reflect the intercultural, or I mean, whatever we want to, whichever qualities we want to attract. We want to reflect it in the first interviews, the first approach to the candidate, also in the advertisements, and then try to catch as many good candidates or matching candidates as possible with the right company approach.
Amazing. And Cassandra, for you, the same question. How do you attract international talent?
Yeah, so a lot of what Gizem said really resonated. So I work pretty closely with the employer branding team, and we do a lot of international promotion of Adevinta. So, you know, probably most of you have never heard of Adevinta, even if you've heard of the brands that we operate. So we're very new, and our main kind of goal is just to get our name out there and build up recognition and awareness of Adevinta as a brand, and particularly as an employer brand. So we are really active on social media, and one of the things that we've put a lot of investment in is great social media campaigns, and we actually do sponsored posts in countries where we've had a lot of success recruiting, for international placements in Barcelona. So we've had good success with Argentinians for whatever reason. Argentinians seem to love Adevinta and love Barcelona, so we're always doing sponsored campaigns there.
They have language opportunity as well.
Exactly. Language. Argentina and Chile are big ones for us. Italy as well. We have imported a lot of talent from Italy lately. So that's one thing we do. I think similarly, it's kind of just about the mindset and just being open to considering talents and candidates from other countries and other cultures. And for us here in Barcelona, we kind of have the best of both worlds, because we have both a really strong local team, so our Spain team, which are operating our local marketplaces here, plus our international our corporate teams. So we have that opportunity to sort of attract both people who are interested in, oh no, I'm Spanish, I just want to be part of the Spanish team, or I'm Spanish and I'm really interested in, having a more multicultural, international role. Then you might be interested in a role in the central team. So we have the best of both worlds. We really do recruit and keep an open mind about international people.
Great. So, I mean, then let's move through to the recruitment process itself. So you now have these candidates sitting in front of you. I mean, Gizem, can you share some of your best practice processes? So, when you finally got that funnel and you've managed to attract all these people, then how do you work with them? How do you interview them?
Right. I mean, having intercultural competency interviews that we were speaking also, it's quite sensitive, because as much as we want to choose the right soft skills for our company culture, we need to also be careful with the questions and everything, because there's a thin line, and you shouldn't go beyond to the discrimination side. So, I mean, what we do basically is that I'm managing an international team. So we already have that cross-cultural like ambiance in the team. So it has been, I mean, and also people from really like from Brazil to Germany. So, I mean, just
Diverse,
to
very
exactly.
diverse cultures, yeah.
So first, what we did as Page Group, that when I started working in Barcelona, we created the international team to also attract international talent, which is like one of, in my opinion, one of the softest and safest way to actually reach to an international talent, show them we understand, because when you change countries, when you change jobs, it's something that you're jeopardizing for your own life, that you're actually taking a risk. So in that moment, you need to also have like some kind of empathy, kind of connection within the interview, that we understand you like from a personal way. And then of course, like there are questions that you can dive into to see if the person is a good cultural fit, like, but more on the surface, I would say, like what kind of management that you value, what kind of management you apply to your team, or I mean, what was your previous company's company culture? So just to understand a little bit, not going into really details like, oh, what do you do in your country in that kind of situations, or but you know, just to understand, because it's really important that if not only for the company but also for the candidate, if the match doesn't work, I mean, recruitment is the tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have 1 hour to understand if the person is personally, the soft skills gonna match with that manager or that company. So if you fail a little bit, then that person moves with the family without, I mean, it's just changing the lives, and then it doesn't work. So you don't want that.
And there are some terrifying figures of how expensive that is for the
Of course,
companies.
companies as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
So getting that right is something really, really,
Really
important.
important.
And Cass, you know, you've got this diversity of candidate pool. How do you ensure that in the recruitment process there's a level playing field at interview?
Yeah, good question. I'd say there's kind of two things that we do at Adevinta to help make sure we're sort of being equitable and considering candidates from other cultures. The first is we make every hiring manager go through unconscious bias training. And ultimately, our goal is to have every person in the company go through it. But if you are a new manager and you're hiring somebody, it's like a requirement. You have to go and do that before you can even get your job rec out. So, obviously you can make arguments all day long about how effective unconscious bias training is, but in our view, at a minimum, it helps to open people's eyes to the idea of unconscious bias and the idea that every human being has their biases, and just being aware of those is a great starting point. So that's one thing. The other thing is, when it comes to interviewing, we follow kind of a specific methodology, which is competency-based interviewing. And if you're going to be doing an interview, we have a training that you're supposed to go through. And I actually remember doing that training and dreading it and thinking, oh no, another training. But they did a really nice job making it super
Don't
interactive.
say that, Cass,
I know.
don't say that.
They made it really interactive, and there was role playing, and I found it super useful. So the idea with competency-based interviewing is, first and foremost, you set out your questions at the start of the process. So you write down your 10 or 12 questions, and you stick to those questions with every candidate. That's really important to make sure that it's equitable and everybody's having the same experience, so that you can make more objective judgments. Obviously, all of these judgments are going to be subjective at the end of the day. And the thing that you're trying to get to is, what are the specific concrete examples that demonstrate that you have a certain competency? And these competencies may be, sort of strictly skills based on, do you have the skills for the job? But we also have a set of standard questions around our cultural competencies. So one of the things that we really value at Adevinta is giving and receiving feedback and using that to grow and develop yourself. So we ask candidates, can you give me an example of when you've received constructive feedback and how you use that to improve your way of working or whatever it is? So we're really trying to get to not just having people, say, oh yeah, I really like giving feedback, but actually give us the example of that. So the whole idea with this interviewing methodology is you're coming away with facts and objective things to look at, and because you've asked the same questions to everybody, you can more objectively compare candidates with each other.
I think that's a great point. What do you think about this new trend? I don't know if either of you adopt this in your companies, but this new trend about hiring on fit. Like, so instead of like going more towards like somebody's education or somebody's experience, you're only looking at fit. Does that happen yet? I mean, this is a huge trend in the States at the moment.
I mean, fit as in the soft skills and then the company culture.
And company, yeah, company.
I mean, for some positions, like maybe more on the soft skills required, like let's say, I mean, marketing, but then, or like HR, or I mean, in some cases, even finance, a bit more. I mean, but then at some point, the technical level has to also match with the company's requirements.
Yeah.
But I've interviewed, I mean, I had been in a lot of interview processes that, for example, I present the CVs and then the hiring managers that doing the technical interview. And then in a lot of times they said, okay, technically not that, but then I really like to work with that person.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead.
And actually it's being taken even one step further now. It's like, let's bring it back to football or baseball, right? You hire somebody for a team, but you don't quite know where they're going to fit in yet until they get there. So in the States, this is a huge trend of just hiring in clusters, not even for a specific job.
For potential.
But it's potential, but culture plays a very important part in that. How do you bring the right people into the team? Then you can define exactly what they do. So this is all kind of like, this is all new. But it's great because we're then getting more diverse talent on board, right?
Yeah. I would challenge a little bit the idea of culture fit. And the way we try to think about it is instead of, oh, you match our culture, we try to think of it as, oh, you're going to add to our culture. So we're looking for culture additive rather than culture fit. But, at the end of the day, if we find somebody, so I talked about feedback being really important to us. If we find somebody who's like, oh, no, I think feedback is a waste of time, well, that's obviously not going to add to the culture we're trying to build. So,
So value add, which obviously in business terms is always talked about, return on investment and all that kind of thing. We're in the same area. But I think also in these cross-cultural interviews, making sure that there is mutual understanding, I think is something really important that to bring out of the interview. So when you say, your idea about feedback, your idea about, company, your idea about how you're managed, making sure that you have that mutual understanding when you're interviewing between cultures is also essential. So moving now to sort of onboarding, the final part, I talked about this area being quite administrative and sort of introducing the human approach. I mean, Cassandra, tell us about the onboarding, because I know you have a great onboarding program at Avinta.
We do. I'm really proud of it. So I would say it's not at all an administrative task. And I mean, we do. There are the administrative tasks that happen like your first week of work, but we wouldn't even consider that onboarding. That's just like your first day of work. But our official onboarding program is typically, it happens kind of like a month to 6 weeks into your career with us. And we have, it's kind of like a series of virtual events and workshops. It's about 8.5 hours total of training and workshops. We go through, our company culture, our company history. We do role playing around our key behaviors. So one of the things that I think really helps us with this intercultural challenge is our key behaviors. So rather than saying, oh, we value innovation, we've actually defined one of our key behaviors is always be learning, try stuff, learn from the data, and try again. So rather than saying we value innovation, we're saying we expect you to act in this way. So no matter what culture you're from and what your starting point is, everybody kind of, it's very clear how we expect people to act and to work together. So during our onboarding, there's a lot of emphasis on that, role-playing games, and we also have kind of Q&A with the senior leadership. There's a lot that we bring to it because we really want people to feel part of the company and understand our company culture. So no matter what kind of national culture or background they're bringing, it's very clear what we expect from our employees to be part of our company culture.
Amazing, amazing. And Gizam, for Michael Page, I mean, you have the dual role because
Right.
you're recruiting for other clients, but also you have your own teams. to
Yeah,
recruit
I'm
for.
also an internal recruitment manager. But well, I mean, it's quite interesting, like what you said. I mean, for international, we also have more than 50 different nationalities in the shared service center, and I mean, it's a really sensitive topic also when people come that they and then as I said, like 60% of our recruitment coming from abroad.
Yeah.
So they are not only new in the company, they are also new in the country. So they don't have friends, and they need to. I mean. Just to add one more thing, maybe that to create a better melting pot, we were also applying some body programs that we were like also in Spain that they do this like padrino, like that what you do is
Nice.
that
Yeah.
So for the new starters, that there's like a person in the company that from another division, from another culture, that they can go to and then have lunch together and then try to understand a little bit the company culture and then melt in. So that was like one of the examples that comes to my mind.
Fantastic. Has anybody from the audience got any questions they would like to ask? I mean, we'd like to throw it out. Great, yeah.
During the hiring process, you did candidate screening, and then influence, social media. Yeah, during the hiring process, when you're doing candidate screening, the social media influence the recruitment process. But it's, I mean, what you'll find on Facebook or Instagram. It's going to have any impact into the decision process?
So if I understand, are you asking if a candidate's profile impacts on our hiring decisions? Right. I'm afraid I can't really answer that. I'm not part of I wouldn't be part of the screening process. That's a good question. I think so. I can speak as a hiring manager. So because am hiring for the communications team, I do typically look at people's. I'll Google somebody before I interview them. I always look at their LinkedIn. And I've never had the experience where I've come across somebody's Facebook or Instagram posts which are offensive, but if I did, I probably would have second thoughts about that. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. I don't think we kind of have like an official stance on that, but more of like a case by case basis.
Well, I mean, that's a very honest answer, by the way. I mean, it's true that, I do a lot of pre-screening from my line of work. And then it shouldn't, in people's personal lives shouldn't interfere, but we're all human beings, hiring managers as well. So when you hire to your team, you want to be successful in that team for your own benefits as well. I mean, then you do your best to hire the best. So, I mean, eventually it can affect that. And I would recommend at least to have a professional LinkedIn account that's like in the business. But yeah, and maybe it shouldn't, but at one point it does.
Yeah, I mean,
They see it.
professionally, LinkedIn is a great way to market yourself. So if you're thinking about yourself from a candidate point of view, then obviously having a strong LinkedIn profile, publishing, posting, things that you're interested in, things that you're passionate about, is going to come to the attention of hirers. So if you think about it from that way round, that's great. But I mean, we don't really get too much into the people have a private life, so they're allowed to have a private life.
Yeah, of course.
But in inclusivity, getting as many people as possible into the funnel is now really critical, and as much diverse talent as possible. Great. Anybody else? I can see a couple of hands going up. I don't think that mic is working. We couldn't hear it from here.
Hi.
Oh, yeah.
Well, first of all, say congratulations because you look like you're super successful in your careers and all what you're doing. So, as a person who is starting in this business, and I want to know how you girls arrives where you are in your position. What did you study? What things made you decide to have this international perspective of your jobs? And like, I just want to know that.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. That's really flattering. So for me, I've always worked in communications, and I always knew that I wanted to work in communications. Even from the time I was a little kid, my mom would always tell me, "You never shut up." I really like to communicate. I've always loved writing. My degree was a bit random and esoteric, but it was in folklore and mythology, which
Wow.
sounds a bit weird, but it's actually about like the art of storytelling, and so it's kind of I think of it as the intersection of human psychology and communication. So kind of the theories and the principles I've learned there have, shaped my work. I was lucky enough to live in the Bay Area, kind of in the US at the time when Silicon Valley was really, rising to prominence. Got my foot in the door with a very junior position in Google and stayed there for 7 years. That's really where as you would expect, I learned so much. That was my first experience working in an international company. I went to Japan and then I went to Ireland. So that was really kind of the foundation for me. And then since then, I've just, been lucky, gone after opportunities. I always The advice that I always give is walk through the open door. When an opportunity is in front of you, no matter how scary it might seem and how far it might push you out of your comfort zone, for example, moving to Japan on your own, walk through that open door because opportunities like that don't come along every day. So that would be my advice.
Great. From my side, I would say the same thing. Comfort zone is always comfortable, so you have to a bit get out of it. For me, it was the same. I sorry. And also the company, I would say, I've been in the same company for almost 10 years. The company culture actually kept me in the company. That I really like our company culture. We have a bit more like Friday drinking culture. That was fitting with me, but it's just like they created a really, really good environment and growing organic and etc. So, and then when I had the opportunity, I pushed for it with everything. Coming to Spain without Spanish at the beginning was something really, really. They told me that I wouldn't be able to work in Spain without Spanish, which when I came here, I realized that I could, and then I'm now opening other doors to other people on that. But yeah, just don't give up. Push yourself to the limits.
Great. There was another question.
From your experience, it's like the candidate profile screening. Do you think if the company is globally diversified, will it affect the candidate profile screening? Like in the further roles when they want to be in the company and they want to get promoted and change the locations, because of that, will it have an effect on the candidate profile screening for the recruitment?
Um, just can you repeat the question just so if I understood it right?
Sure. It's like when you are screening the candidate profile for the recruitment, if the company is globally diversified, will it have an effect on the candidate profile screening?
You mean like if the company is a global company that if of course
Exactly.
in a positive way, that if I understood your question right, that it actually enables to reach out to many different candidates, that it gives volume to the process in my for screening, because you can reach out to more candidates that actually once they apply you can see more options. But other than that, to I don't know, eliminate candidates or filter, I don't think that would be company being global would affect that.
No, because I think you go on the person, right? So
Right.
actually it starts with the person when you're doing the big filtering and getting people into the funnel. It's becoming less and less important. It's more about skills, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just if you're global, you have a larger geographical boundaries that you can reach out to more candidates, I think.
And there was another question here. Oh,
Good morning. Well, first of all, thank you very much for your presentation, Ms. Karen. It was very interesting for me,
thank you.
especially the part that put a confrontation between masculinity and feminine thought. I recognize that it's right. For instance, if I apply this to myself, I understand that I identify in the masculinity, but even if I am of a generation that started in that way, I'm trying to come in the 21st century. And I recognize the other part of the world as completely right as well. So my attempt is to make like a fusion,
Yes,
nuclear
a
fusion,
bridge or a
to keep the
bridge.
best of both, no?
Exactly.
It's like to think with the two hemispheres of my brain, rational and irrational. So when it comes to the problem of recruiting and onboarding people for my company, because I'm an entrepreneur, I have experienced always the same problem. Since I have recruited and a lot, hundreds of people along my life, and independently of the cultural diversities, there is always a problem. We have to go to the point. Money. I mean, people, even if is motivated from a big idea, oh, this is very good, I like this project, but in the end, you understand that people want something sure, then they can grasp, they want to eat, they want to pay the rent, and something like this. Me, like entrepreneur, I work 18 or maybe more hours per day. In this moment, I have a huge project in my mind that is like a Chinese box or Matryoshka box, a project with inside other 10 projects. And I need a lot of people with culturally diverse talents. So I would ask to you, anybody of you, or maybe especially for Miss Zizek, or Jizek, I don't remember, because yeah, you are from Page Personnel is a very renewed in the war, but everybody of you want to answer. How can I solve the problem that people is committed inside and can take as they want to merge with me and not like follower, like in Instagram. I want that you are leader of yourself. It's like King Arthur table. We are pair between pairs. And people don't understand really well this kind of speech because what they want is to have a job and you pay a salary per month. What I have to do along the interview with this kind of people to transmit that you have to take a risk because life is a risk, but of course is an opportunity. I don't know if my question is
Yeah,
clear.
no,
Great
it's a very good
for
question.
Yeah.
Yes, it is very difficult. I mean, in that case, that money, as you said, salary is something that we work for. Yeah, nobody is working for free. But yeah, I mean, in some cases, it's the most important thing, and in some cases, it's more the career, like the opportunities, the company culture that they want to, if they find opportunities to grow, which is something that you have to maybe reflect to them in the interviews that, okay, so you are coming to this, but you're investing in it. It's not only this and then that's it, you know? So, I mean, there will be career opportunities in this way. As a company, we like to grow organic. We have defined career paths. If you are successful, of course, I mean, that's kind of a natural condition. But if you're successful, then you will come to this point and then you will even have a better salary than you're asking now in a year. So I mean, that's kind of, I don't know the company culture. I don't know like how you what you can provide, but maybe advertising a bit, focusing on what else you can give, how else you can fulfill that candidate's expectations, rather than only the salary, can bring you up to a level. Again, sometimes the answer is no, but it can help.
No, maybe I think my solution is, since my origin is Italian, you know that Italian are very passionate.
Yep, we notice.
Maybe if I have to do an outsourcing, maybe I give you
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think you need to talk. I think you need
We'd
to
be happy
talk.
to
I
help.
think you need to talk. We've come to the end of the hour. We'd love to carry on with the conversation and the questions. So if we could take it outside to the coffee, that would be great, and we can talk a little bit more informally. I just wanted to end by saying thank you so much to Gizam and Cassandra. Really interesting chat. And I also wanted to remind people that in BBI, we have a workshop session next week, next Thursday, where we're going to be talking about this subject in more depth. So it's a 3-hour session. I think we have here the information. If you go to the website, we have the International Academy on the 24th of February from 9 to 12. Okay, so let me just go back so you can take the website thing there. There you go. There's the contact details. And we look forward to seeing you again in May with the Ayuntamiento. We're going to be doing the same format, really diving again into culture, but we're going to be talking about leadership. Yeah? Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.